my fellow comic book collectors, it's Alan, the Comic Collector Geek, and today I'm going to do a very special interview. I'm going to be interviewing myself. I'm going to be talking about my comic collection, my comic experiences, how I got into collecting comics, and a little bit about my personal life in terms of what I do outside of comics. And it really was a question that was asked on my channel by somebody named Mass Peanut. So I'm going to answer his questions and then I'll give you a little bit more detail beyond it. So the first question that he asked was, what got you into collecting and how long have you collected for? Well, I started collecting back when I was I think it was about 8 years old. Like the time periods, I think around 1981-ish. I was living in Sydney, Nova Scotia at the time, or just outside of Sydney, Nova Scotia at the time. And I collected coins. I was really into coin collecting, and the local coin shop that I went to buy coins had a comic on the wall. Now, I had been getting comics before this point. My parents would give me Disney comics and like a whole bunch of like Donald Duck and Uncle Scrooge and Goofy and Mickey Mouse and all that kind of stuff. But and Richie Rich was the other big one. But really, I didn't see them as something that was collectible. I saw them as just something to read, something that we would just sort of have. I didn't see them as something that had any value to it or that was a collectible. But when I went to my coin shop and I saw this book that was on the wall, I was like, wow, that's a really cool book. It's got the duck thing and also has a character that I liked, Spider-Man, on it. And it was Howard the Duck #1, which, if you know the cover, has Howard the Duck. It has like sort of this red Sonja kind of like girl, and it also has Spider-Man on the cover. So I thought, wow, and it's worth $10. That's huge money. So I thought, wow, this is comics are actually collectible. And it was like a light switch had gone off in my mind that comics are a collectible item. So I got into collecting. I saved up the money and I bought that Howard the Duck #1. Still worth probably about $10, but I was really excited to get that book, and it really set me on the path of collecting. So that was when I was about 8 years old. I'm 51 now, so I've been collecting for 43 years. Do I have, and the next question is, do you have any other hobbies and interests? Yes, I'm actually pretty diverse in terms of my interests and hobbies. I was really into judo. I was training in judo for many, many years, and I was really reasonable at it. I was pretty good at it. I got up to a 3rd degree black belt in judo, and really loved judo, and was a teacher for many years in judo. That's kind of one of my biggest hobbies, but also I was really into skiing, and I was a ski racer for about 5 years. Really enjoyed skiing. And what else? Sailing. I've been sailing since I was basically born. My dad would always take us sailing pretty much when we were really, really young. And he would, we'd sail on a boat, and we would do these kind of local friendly competitions kind of things where it was like, maybe 20, 30 boats in the competition. And we would actually do okay. We got pretty good as I was into my teens. My sister and brother were in their teens as well, and we were a pretty good crew at that point. We would just sort of do things very intuitively. We just know, oh, put up the jib, or put up the fly the spinnaker, or whatever it was. We'd do it really, really quick and without much mistakes made, and we'd be really good at sailing. And then I got into sailing lasers, and a laser is a one-man boat. I was really good at sailing lasers, but I didn't have the body weight for it. I was always a bit small, so I didn't really have the body weight for it. The other things that I did was cycling. I would like, during my teenage years, I'd cycle probably about 100 kilometers or 60 miles a day, like every day. I was in really good shape. And then I would do a lot of cross-country running was the other big thing that I would do. So I was very athletic as a kid. Yeah, and I was into a lot of weird things like stamp collecting, um, button collecting. I collect buttons. I collect also Snoopy dolls and like all the different clothing. I was really into Snoopy. And also I collected Smurfs and all the little figurines for Smurfs. So I collected a lot of things. I was kind of a collector, and my family would kind of know me as a collector. They would be like, "Oh, he's the collector of the family," and which was kind of cool because a lot of when my elderly relatives would visit, they would always give me like some old coins or something that was kind of collectible, and they'd say, "Oh, Alan will like it." So it was cool. I get all this like these hand-me-downs that were pretty cool. Um, so what do you do, and what did you do for work? Well, I still work. I actually work quite long hours. I work anywhere from 10 to 20 hours a day, so pretty long days for me, and I work 7 days a week. So I work very intensely, and I try to sneak in these comic videos when I have like a few hours downtime, and when I'm not managing my family. Um, and what I do for work is I am a SEO specialist, and I own a digital marketing agency. So back in the day, I went to Korea with my wife. This is kind of a weird story, but I went to Korea with my wife, and when I returned after teaching English for 3 years, I had a little bit of cash. And this was back in around that 1998 to 1999 period where the internet was just booming. If you said, "Oh, I have a website," people would just throw millions of dollars at you, and you could become like rich, one of these internet success stories. So I wanted to do that. So I had this extra money, and I decided to make an art website. And my art website was called You Can Buy Art. And I didn't know anything about art, but I thought, oh, there's lots of artists. It'll be a guaranteed win. And what happened was it actually did do very well because I had a natural sense of how to optimize websites and to make them successful, not just for SEO and ranking on the search engines, but how to optimize it for user experience to really convert those people into sales. And my website was mentioned in Better Homes and Gardens as being one of the best of the web. CNN News did a 30-minute spotlight on it. There was a whole bunch of things that happened. New York Times did a story on it. Like, it was a pretty big website back in the day. But it wasn't really generating that much money. It was sort of a very meager income that I could generate from it. Enough to live, but not enough to thrive. And what happened was there was a real estate agent who reached out to me because he had read about how good I was at optimizing and building these websites. And I had done it for other people as well, where they asked me to do optimization. And then what happened was this real estate agent said, "Hey, could you help me with my real estate thing?" And I'm like, "Sure, it's just another keyword." And I got him ranked #1 for his local market in Toronto. And he generated like $100 million in sales. It was pretty insane because I just was really good at SEO and getting anything ranked. And so that's what I do in my day job is get businesses ranked on the search engines. And I've done about 3,000 businesses over the years where I've optimized them and gotten them ranked on search engines and drive traffic through the search engines. So that's what I do on a daily basis is get clients ranked. If you have a business, I can get it ranked at the top of the search engines and drive business to you. And if anyone that's watching is interested and wants me to help them, just reach out to me and I'll help you, and I can set you up. But that's what I do. So, and there's a lot of things within that. So it's not just search engine optimization is my specialty, but I also do social media marketing. I do web development, app development, pretty much anything you can imagine online is what I do. And it's my own company, and I have about 20 employees, and we do just a lot of different services. So that's kind of my day job. And the reason I work such long hours is I'm managing teams overseas and local people. So it's like constantly working across multiple time zones. So it's very long hours and very stressful work. It's very hard work actually. But it's fun. It's something I'm good at. So I enjoy it. Um, what do you your family and your friends think of your collection and collecting habits? So I really don't talk about it that much. A few of my clients know that I collect comics because what I would do is not on purpose or anything. I would do a lot of Skype calls, especially when COVID was going on, and I would have the comics in the background. Not this room, but in my office, I'd have comics in the background, and they'd be like, "Oh, you collect comics?" And I actually gained some clients just because they were like, "Oh, you collect comics? I collect comics," and we'd start talking about comics rather than business. But but I got them as clients as a result. Um, so so generally, people are pretty positive, except my wife is very negative about comics. She hates the comics, to tell you the truth. Um, but and in terms of friends, most of my friends are either through judo or through business. Really, most of my friends I've made are through business connections, and it's only been recently where I made actual comic book friends, and that's actually the reason I started this channel, because I had all this interest in comic collecting, but I really wanted to have more friends that had that similar interest where I could sort of talk about it and really relate to people. For the most part, most people don't that I know beyond that really don't understand the comics and don't really see the value of them. So it is what it is. Um, would you consider doing a room tour and showing off your setup and showing an overview of how many books you have in total? Now, I have done a room tour. If you actually go to my channel, like the base page, you can actually see a room tour where I do a fairly good tour of the room. I can't show all the comics, but I did show kind of the way the room is laid out and how the comics are stored. So you get a sense of how many comics are in my collection and what's in my collection. And last question from you was, do you ever send books off to CGC that you would buy raw? Okay, so I actually wanted to do more submissions to CGC, but it is very expensive. Typically, especially the more valuable the book, the more expensive it gets. And I have probably I would say about 500 good candidates that are worth getting graded. But 500 books, probably at an average cost of $100 to $200 per book to get it graded, would be just cost prohibitive. So I generally don't send them off. Now, I have sent books off to CGC in the past. What happened was I bought a collection from a local comics shop, and a lot of the books weren't graded. And I said, "Oh, can you do a submission for me and send them off?" Now, this was during just pre-COVID, just before COVID happened. And they sent them off, and it took 2 years for the books to come back. And I was panicking. I was like, emailing them every week saying, "Hey, where's the books? Where are the books?" And I was torturing them for like about 2 years, saying, "What's going on with this collection of books that I had sent off?" Because they were big books. They were like Avengers #2 and Mary Marvel #1 and a whole bunch of like the Spirit #1. It was like a whole bunch of big books that I'd sent off, and I was like, "Oh, where are they? What's taking so long? Why is it taking 2 years? The website only says like 100 days or something." It was like just taking forever. And yeah, eventually I got the books though. So I was quite happy about that, but it was very annoying. So that kind of turned me off on doing submissions to CGC. I would like to get a bunch of my books graded because, as I said, there are about 500 books, maybe more, that really should get graded because they are kind of like these very rare and very valuable books that should be preserved in some way. And I feel like putting the books in the slab does protect them. So they are ones that I would love to get graded. But again, until I stop buying, I can't really get things graded because I just don't have the extra cash beyond the cash that I use to buy new comics. So that's kind of my situation with that. So those are kind of, I hope that gives a bit more insight into me as a comic collector and as a person beyond comics, that I do a lot of cool things beyond just collecting comics. I actually, for my day job, but going back to that just for a second, I've actually written several books about marketing, and I've actually written several children's books. I've written 2 children's books. So when my kids were young, I wanted to give them each a book that they could sort of say, oh, my dad wrote this, you know, and have it so that they could kind of show some of the stories that I tell them when they go to bed. I used to, because I'm dyslexic, I actually don't like I don't like reading out loud, especially because it really showcases my dyslexia. And so what would happen is I would tell stories to my kids when they would go to bed rather than reading them books. I would also read books, but for the most part, I'd like to tell them stories. And I'd make up all these crazy stories and then tell them as they were going to bed. And so I wrote 2 children's books, one for my daughter and one for my son. And I called it My Little Prince for my little prince and for my little princess for them. So that was something I did. So there's a lot more than than just collecting comics, but I really do enjoy collecting comics, and it's a big part of my life. So I hope you enjoy this interview of myself. Next week, I will be interviewing somebody totally different. You won't have to hear about me anymore, and I'll show some more books. So this one, I didn't really show much books, but you get to see all the ones behind me. So again, thanks for watching. I hope you enjoyed this video. Thanks for the question or questions. And again, thanks for watching. Bye for now.